days, you know, it's gonna be
No,
like this.
my card will be days, so it's not. Yeah, that's how I can look at the price of land. Okay, we're not shuffling, like, I think it's gotta come, of course, but I gotta start looking exactly into the winter here fast.
I do it pretty much, but I change a lot of the words.
Right, that's
So instead of darling, darling, it's save, it's save. It's in the, yeah, okay. They don't have it in this, they don't have it in that one. I think they do here. There are little experiments. See what works, what doesn't, what that thing. I can see clearly now, because they do things in the church. I said, this is a good idea. I can see clearly now the rain is gone, all my dark clouds disappears. That's really nice idea. All right, here we go.
No, it's really what he was a drug addict. For 3 years he was fine. Whatever reason God I told Dad
Move this out of the way. Well, somebody's gonna be up there. Monday. So. Very emotional. So all the family members, all the church has mass service. And more people could be one of those.
Good evening, everybody. I'm glad for all you who are made it out on this dreary night here down at the shore, and welcome to anybody who's online right now. I want to first say that 2 years ago, I think it was, at the district, New Jersey District LCMS Convention, Pastor Haas had introduced a declaration in cooperation with Jerry's I guess, organization,
Yep.
Anchor of Hope,
Yep.
to make the district churches more aware of the problem that is in their that's chewing up their neighborhoods, and to inspire us to become a beacon of hope to these lost people, hurting families, and to help change our communities for the good. So with that introduction, I'll let Jerry Cleaves tell you a little bit about himself and the Anchor of Hope and his mission to make, to stamp out drug addiction, our mission. So Jerry, thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. Excuse me. Again, my name is Jerry Cleaves, and I'm a professor of business and management at Pillar College. And I'm also the advisor to the Pillar Enactus team, which is a social entrepreneurship club, and also the founder and director of an organization called Anchor of Hope at Pillar College, and chair of the New Jersey District LCMS Task Force on Addiction. We formed the Anchor of Hope at Redeemer Lutheran Church in Westfield around 2000, and then with our senior pastor, Pastor Paul Critch, and we were inspired by Jim Buckman, who many of you might know, inspired by the prayer walking in downtown Westfield. And that's how we got started, using the name Anchor of Hope, which comes right from Hebrews 6:19. We have this hope as an anchor for the soul, firm and secure. And we formed then many years later, the Anchor of Hope at Pillar College, with a vision to address what we call the perfect storm of mental health, homelessness, incarceration, and addiction. We were very much aware of the addiction-related issues. However, in the past couple of years, we realized it's bigger than just addiction. Most of the people who are addicts were homeless at some point in time. Many of them have mental health issues. And many of them coming out of incarceration, coming out of jail, are suffering because they don't have insurance, they don't have a home, they don't have a place to stay, and they very quickly get back into the environment that they left and find themselves back into the drug game once again. So it's that perfect storm that needs to be addressed. And it's not just as simple as looking at addiction. So we really expanded the mission of the Anchor of Hope from looking at addiction, particularly opioid addiction, to this perfect storm. And I've worked very closely over the last 10 or 15 years with the Partnership for a Drug-Free New Jersey, and we've done through their Knockout Opioid Abuse Days, symposiums, seminars, blog articles with them. First at Fairleigh Dickinson, where I worked from 2003 to 2016, and we actually established the Anchor of Hope concept there, working closely with the Market Street Mission in Morristown and the School of Pharmacy and Health Sciences at FDU. And I left there in 2019 to join Pillar College. And for those of you that don't know Pillar College, I've got to do a little bit of advertising. Pillar College is the only accredited evangelical Christian college in the state of New Jersey. And we've been around for over 100 years as Somerset Christian College. However, with a flood, I think it was Irene or one of those floods that flooded out the Somerset campus, and we decided that was a message from God and that we were going to move into an urban community, so we moved into Newark. And since then, we've established campuses in Patterson, Jersey City, Plainfield, and this summer, our Somerset campus moved up to the old Fellowship Deaconry in Basking Ridge, and we're right now exploring a campus at the Americas Keswick, right in Whiting, nearby. So that's all new, it's all developing, but we have opportunities there that I'll talk about some this evening. Our vision at Pillar is to prepare our graduates to become transformational leaders and windmills of change in their communities. And the dream is that through the Anchor of Hope, our graduates will become somewhat familiar with the issues surrounding these perfect storm elements: mental health, homelessness, incarceration, addiction, the opioid addiction crisis, and the devastation it does not only to individuals, but also their families and the communities. And we put into practice biblically inspired servant leadership and hope that they will in some way help to address these elements of the perfect storm. That's our dream. And the inspiration, again, of Anchor of Hope comes from Hebrews 6:19. We have this hope as an anchor for the soul, firm and secure. Drug overdose deaths in New Jersey have doubled since 2015, from 1,600 per year to over 3,000 in each of the last few years. An average of more than 8 people die of a drug overdose each day. The complex, multifaceted problem is bad and it's getting worse. Nationwide, we saw a 30% increase in overdose deaths in 2000, and it topped 100,000 for the first time in 2021 and 2022. 70% of these were fentanyl related. It affects not only the individual, but families and the communities. Addicts consumed by their habit often result to crime and violence. Recent studies published show that most of these people dying were young, under 35, and about 2/3 of the deaths resulted from opioid misuse. Opioid misuse and abuse tears apart families, fills jails, leads to terrible health consequences, and imposes a tremendous economic cost on everyone. The Center for Disease Control reports that the rates for Americans aged 15 to 44 rose 5% per year, and drugs, alcohol, and suicide are largely to blame. The National Institute of Health reports drug overdoses are the lead cause of accidental deaths in the U.S., with opioids the most common drug for those under the age of 50. And now everybody knows someone. I would bring this up in my classes at Fairleigh Dickinson maybe 10 or 15 years ago, and I'd be like their father talking to them, in one ear, out the other. No one was paying attention. No one had ever heard of opioids. No one had ever heard of OxyContin. No one thought that heroin was a very real problem. In the last 5 years, half the hands go up. Kids start crying in class. Everybody knows somebody. Everybody knows somebody. If we located all of the heroin users in New Jersey into one fictitious location, we'll call it Heroin Town, it'd be the 4th most populated city in New Jersey, behind Newark, Jersey City, and Patterson. And as it turns out, Pillar has campuses in Newark, Jersey City, and Patterson. It'll be home to men, women, and children, some born into addiction. Opioid heroin addiction does not discriminate. We would find white, black, Latinos, straight, gay, doctors, lawyers, teachers, laborers, police, unemployed, and homeless, just like any other major city. But there is hope. After 100 years in Somerset, New Jersey, operating as Somerset Christian College, a flood moved us to Newark and reorganized as Pillar College. We now have campuses in these major cities, and we are exploring other sites in New Jersey, including America's Keswick down here in Ocean County. There have been 3 distinct waves of opioid overdose deaths since 2010. The first is the rise in the use of prescription painkillers like OxyContin. It was produced by Purdue Pharma. It was sold heavily into states like West Virginia in the late 1990s. Aging coal miners were given excessive amounts of the drug, and some became drug dealers selling it up and down the East Coast. High school athletes were prescribed the drug for sports injuries. The second wave was the rise in the use of heroin. When the prescription to this non-addictive painkiller ran out, again, advertised by Purdue Pharma as a non-addictive painkiller, it was extremely addictive, and it wasn't even that effective a painkiller. And it got people hooked on the OxyContin. The users discovered a $5 bag of heroin purchased on the street was cheaper than a $20 pill. And the third wave, the rise in the use of heroin laced with synthetics like fentanyl for an even deadlier prescription. The use of fentanyl does not stop with heroin. It's being used laced with marijuana, cocaine, methamphetamines, and other illegal counterfeit drugs like Percocet purchased on the streets. And quite frankly, these kids are buying it as party drugs. They don't even know what they're buying. The dealers don't even know what they're selling, and people are dying. Now we're hearing about an even more powerful synthetic drug. Just heard about it today. I don't even know the name of it. It comes as a horse tranquilizer. More powerful drug, more powerful than fentanyl. By 2017, we had a full-blown opioid epidemic in America. Nearly 30% of the patients prescribed prescription opioids misused them. 10% developed an opioid use disorder, and 5% transitioned to heroin. Approximately 80% of the people who use heroin started by misusing prescription drugs. While we see the prescription OxyContin-related deaths decreasing due to mounting pressure on big pharma, doctors, pharmacies, distribution companies, and along with increased vigilance by federal, state, and local authorities, newer and more powerful addictive legal and illegal drugs will emerge, and they already are. And perhaps you heard the disturbing story, I believe it was 2022 spring break. Army football players at West Point were in Florida on spring break, overdosed from cocaine laced with fentanyl. In 2019, the impact of coronavirus related side effects, including home confinement, lack of exercise, entertainment, worship services, and unemployment levels not seen since the Great Depression, were predicted will cause even more deaths from suicide, alcohol abuse, domestic violence, and drug overdoses. These dire predictions came true over the course of 2020 as the perfect storm intensified. Mental health issues affect all of society. Prior to 2020, an estimated 1 in 5 Americans experience a diagnosable mental health disorder in any given year. The pandemic has only aggravated this concern. A 2021 research study funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation entitled Global Prevalence and Burden of Depressive and Anxiety Disorders Due to the COVID-19 Epidemic, and I quote, "Before 2020, mental disorders were the leading cause of mental health related burden, with depression and anxiety disorders being leading contributors to this burden. The emergence of COVID-19 pandemic has created an environment where many determinants of poor mental health are exacerbated. The study showed in 2020, depressive disorder increased 28% in the US and anxiety disorder by 26%. This impacts every segment of society, from our homes and families to our schools, colleges, churches, employment, leisure, entertainment, and politics. As a husband, father, and father-in-law and grandfather of 6, soon to be 7, girls, one of the most chilling statistics is the well-documented 51% increase in suicide attempts nationwide by young girls during COVID. 51% increase suicide attempts, young girls during COVID. And some people have the audacity to say, well, not all of them were successful. 51 increase in suicide attempts. Of course, not all these increases are due to addiction to opioids. In 2021, we also started to see an unexplained increase in deaths by fully vaccinated, young, healthy athletes from heart issues. We dodged a bullet with Damar Hamlin, but it reminded us of the power of prayer and having the equipment and trained personnel, especially athletic trainers. My wife would remind us, she was an athletic trainer for 35 years, readily available. Addiction in general, whether it be alcohol, fame, fortune, technology, pornography, social media, gambling, food, is a significant contributor to dire early warnings about mental health. Restricting social contact may not be the prescription for success we once thought, and it may only serve to exacerbate an existing problem. Now that we have hard data, it needs to be analyzed and understood in a non-political, scientific way. As COVID shuttered the US economy in 2020, one New Jersey solution to create new jobs, create additional tax revenue for the state, and mitigate the growing mental health issue concerns was the legalization of recreational marijuana. Ben Kovler, CEO of Green Thumb Industries, which operates 3 dispensaries in New Jersey, told Fortune the state is going to get a ton of tax revenue and there's going to be a monstrous amount of jobs. That's a given. Bishop Jethro James, senior pastor of Paradise Baptist Church in Newark and president of the Newark, North Jersey Committee of Black Churchmen, authored an opinion piece for the Star Ledger in 2018. He wrote, "Creating a big marijuana type industry would only further hurt minority communities by bringing more drugs into our neighborhoods and our homes. The marijuana and the alcohol industries routinely target vulnerable communities as its profit centers. We don't need to add fuel to the fire. We have seen the effect of this in the states that have already legalized the drug. And we see that in Colorado, we see that in California. It's a bad problem that's getting worse, and here we go and adopt the same thing in the state of New Jersey." While the popular resolution was passed in November of 2020, 67% of the population of New Jersey approved, not medical, recreational marijuana. 400 municipalities across the state have opted out. That's a good sign. They say, sure, legalize it, but we're not going to have it in our town, in our cities, and 400 are holding firm, at least for now. But I don't know if you've noticed, there's CBD shops opening all over the place. My old barber shop in Westfield is now a CBD store. There's a CBD shop 100 yards down from the middle school where my wife's father taught for 45 years. I go in there and I talk to them. I say, is there anything in here that can get you high? Well, yeah, these gel things, they can get you a little bit high, a little bit buzz, but over there, that's not so much. And we sell this stuff that the kids can vape, different flavors vaping. And it's very easy to incorporate marijuana into that vaping. And I said, are you gonna sell legalized marijuana once you're able to? And well, that's above my pay grade, I don't know, I just work here. And you know they are. As soon as they get permission to do that, they're gonna be selling legalized recreational marijuana 100 yards from our middle schools. The response has been grooming process to create young entrepreneurs. And CBD shops, you can see, I think this picture over here, that was taken at a bus stop just 100 yards from our campus in Newark. And they pick it, here's the one in downtown. And they're essentially grooming kids. There's a great future in the cannabis industry. And this is how you get involved with it. Young black kids, impressionable black kids. At Pillar College, we're trying to create black elementary school teachers. And here on the streets of Newark, we're trying to make them into drug dealers, essentially into legalized drug dealers, what they're trying to do. They're saying there's a big future in that. So there's one, the CBD shop, as I said, in my old barber shop in downtown Westfield. The pandemic has only aggravated the concern. Oh, didn't do that. I asked a 20-something salesperson about her business. She said CBD is the non-addictive source of THC from hemp. It comes in several forms, including gummy bears. Most are only therapeutic, but these will give you a little high. I don't know if they'll eventually sell recreational marijuana, I just work here. So I saw this on a Newark bus stop. Picture yourself in the growing cannabis industry. Opportunities are growing. Find your career in cannabis. Your country needs you, your state needs you, industry needs you. Newark apparently is looking for more drug dealers in the city of Newark. We don't see that at Pillar College. Instead, we see young black men becoming elementary school teachers. In fact, we've got a BEST program, Black Elementary School Teachers Program, where we're paying full tuition for Newark young black men who want to become elementary school teachers. We see them as builders of his kingdom on earth and windows of change. Pillar is the only college in Newark, New Jersey with a bachelor's degree program in elementary education. Through our BEST program for men, which stands for Black Elementary School Teachers Program, we intend to provide black males with tuition-free scholarships to earn college degrees in elementary education. We've been in contact with several New Jersey urban school districts, encouraging us to train minority teachers for their immediate hire. And we've talked to school superintendents. You have those teachers, we'll hire them. You have those teachers in Patterson, in Newark, in New Brunswick. When you graduate those teachers, we're going to hire them. We need them. In 2000, the United Nations established millennial goals for 2015. And in the words of the Secretary General of the United Nations, he said, "The global mobilization behind the Millennium Development Goals has produced the most successful anti-poverty movement in history. The landmark commitment entered into by world leaders in the year 2000 to spare no effort to free our fellow men, women, and children from the abject and dehumanizing conditions of extreme poverty." And the experience with these 2000 millennial goals changed in 2015 to develop the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals, which are pictured here. And you can see that they are no hunger, no poverty, and I think the most important one is, well, for us, it's good health and well-being is number 3, and then number 17, partnerships for the goals. These problems are so overwhelming and so oppressing that everyone walks away from a presentation like this and says, well, it's such a big problem, what can we do about it? But we can do something in our own communities, in our neighborhoods. We maybe can't ensure that the world doesn't go hungry, but I'll bet we can ensure that no one in this congregation goes hungry. No one in this town goes hungry. I know Pastor Matt's involved with some of the food banks here in town. We can support that initiative. We can help them. We can grow. Our church is doing that. Your church apparently already is doing that. These are the kinds of things we can help. Yeah, we can't cure the whole world's problem. God can only do that. But by our help, we can make sure that no one in our community is hungry. So millennial goals were updated into 2015 to the UN Sustainable 2030 Development Goals. And the most important one to me is these partnerships to achieve the goals. The Anchor of Hope model is for a college or university to align with a rescue mission, local community advocacy organizations, state and federal organizations to address an important social issue. Activities on the Pillar campus are coordinated by our psychology and counseling team, and also for our Enactus team, which stands for Entrepreneurial Action Creates a Better World for All of Us. It's been an organization that's been around since 1975. It used to call itself SITE, Students in Free Enterprise. It's grown tremendously worldwide over the last 20 years, but it has stalled a bit because of COVID here in the United States. Our team went from 15 down to 0. The Rutgers team went from 150 down to 75. So every church, every college is trying to incentivize their Enactus teams to get them started again. It's sort of a rebranding, a restarting of the Enactus teams, starting new teams during COVID. Growth in Patterson is a strategic issue at Pillar College. We have classroom facilities on Washington Street and have opened up, where we opened up a new campus, opened before COVID. We have long-standing relationships with church, civic, and community leaders in the city of Patterson. We're closely aligned with the Good Shepherd Mission. City Relief, which is an organization that you've probably heard of. They operated as New York City Relief for years. They're now here in New Jersey, working in Newark and Patterson and other cities. The Patterson Pastors Workshop, Clergy on Fire. Ruby's Vision, that's working with mothers and young children. MC Men, a Saturday morning coffee time for men, organizing service events in and around the Patterson community. And we're in the process of developing relationships with the Star of Hope, Hands of Hope, Eva's Village, the YMCA of Patterson, the Patterson school system, the Office of the Mayor, and several Passaic County trade schools. I don't have a close connection with Patterson, but Route 23 coming out of Patterson goes west into Sussex County, into the town of Newton and Oak Ridge, where we have a Lutheran church, Holy Faith Lutheran Church in Oak Ridge, and it goes south into my old town of Verona. Route 23 out of Patterson has been called Heroin Highway for the last 20 years. The heroin comes out of New York, it gets cut in Patterson, distributed out to the suburbs, right on Route 23. And so we're going to try to shut that operation down in the city of Patterson. My other connection is my father-in-law, Art Engelken, played basketball at Eastside High School with Larry Doby, who's a professional baseball player. We played basketball with him back in the 1940s. And you all maybe saw a movie called Lean on Me. Anyone see that movie, Lean on Me? Joe Clark, Eastside High School in Patterson. filmed in the 1980s. He single-handedly came in and turned Patterson around in the 1980s. It was legendary, the way he came in and did it. If you watch the movie Lean on Me, you'll be incredibly impressed. The guys that were the chaplains at Eastside High School and assistant to the chaplains at Young Men are now part of our program. They're major pastors in the city of Patterson. And they learned these lessons from Joe Clark. He's passed away about 2 years ago, but they're trying to instill that same kind of change in the city of Patterson, working mostly with the black pastors in the city of Patterson to keep the drugs out of Patterson and to address it's a decade-old problem in the city of Patterson. Once we get going in Patterson, we're going to come to Newark. We're going to come to the Jersey Shore. We have a rescue mission in the town of Asbury Park. We're going to get involved with Keswick down here. Ocean County has major problems with addiction, as many of you already know. But as I said, the opioid problem does not discriminate. But Pillar College, we have urban campuses again in Newark, Patterson, Plainfield, and Jersey City, work with rescue missions around the state, are uniquely positioned to assist in this process. We expect to partner with other New Jersey universities and student organizations to address this critical area already back in 2020, but then along came COVID. So we've got to restart that process again. We had conversation events on best practices and treatment of addiction. And we've held those. The first one was in 2019, and it was held in the city of Newark, the Robert Treat Hotel in Newark. And the next one was set up and I know the date was November 22nd, 2019, because our grandson was born on that day. I said, there's no way he's going to be born on that same day, but lo and behold, there he was born on that day. And the second one was after COVID in 2022, and the third one in 2023 is going to be held on March 30th in Newark and on the 31st down in Keswick, Keswick Americas Keswick. And there's lots of ways to get engaged, even more so than our meeting. As I said, I've been on the board of the Marcus Mission in Morristown for over 20 years now. And we established the Jersey Shore Rescue Mission in Asbury Park. And my colleagues have been involved with those ministries at Pillar. I think everyone at Pillar knows everyone at the Marcus Mission and everyone in the town of Ocean Grove where we live right now. And so they've all been, I say, they've been engaged for 100 years. And my job is to get them married, all working together and contributing in some way, shape, or form. Everybody knows everybody in that triangle area. But about 10 years ago, we opened up the Jersey Shore Rescue Mission in the town of Asbury Park. And 2 years ago, we opened one in Newton, right up the street from Redeemer in Newton. And that's midway between, or the Holy Faith Lutheran Church in Oak Ridge is midway between Patterson and the site out in Newton. But there's other ways then to engage the community. By teaching seminars, we provide mental health first aid training, which I would encourage all of you to take. We offer it for free through Pillar College. It used to be live, now it's all online. And that's to train zero responders, not even first responders, zero responders. Because if there's an overdose taking place, someone's going to see it first before they call someone in. I mean, Damar Hamlin was lucky to have that heart issue on national TV in a stadium full of people with medically trained equipment right there. But an overdose is going to happen in a train station, it's going to happen in a McDonald's, it's going to happen in someone's bedroom. And you have to be that zero responder first to be there until the first responders get on site. And so these mental health first aid programs are a way to assist you to deal with these kinds of issues as a zero responder growing into a first responder. We also collect coats. The Marcus Street Mission has organized a coat drive for probably the last 40 years. And a lesson that probably Pastor Matt has taught is that you don't always have to start new initiatives. You see where the Lord's already working and get on board. And so we didn't start a coat drive at Redeemer Lutheran Church or my school at Fairleigh Dickinson. We just collected coats in the neighborhood and brought them to the central location. And the first year at FDU, I think we collected 40 coats. The next year, 80 coats. We're up to 200, 300 coats. My church, we collect 100, 200 coats. And we'd say, well, what is that? Well, 200, 300, 400 are going to be warmer this winter as a result of that work. And those flood into 4,000 coats that are distributed on the first Saturday in November in the city of Morristown and the third Saturday in Asbury Park. We've got coats in the car right now that are going to Patterson this weekend to be distributed in Patterson. Food is collected, medical supplies are collected. All these can be easily collected in your church and distributed around to people in need. And there's people in need in every single county. You don't have to go to Patterson or Newark. I'm sure there's people in the food pantries right here in town that could use those kind of initiatives. So we continue to work with the New Jersey Rescue Missions, including our long-standing contacts with the Market Street Mission in Morristown. That's the picture right here, the Jesus Save signs. If you've ever been to Morristown, the Jesus Save sign's been there since 1889 or shortly thereafter when the mission was started. And it's run nonstop at that facility since now 145 years, since 1889. And we've been called the jewel of the crown in the city of Morristown by representatives because we're well established there. We moved into Asbury Park and we found a not in my backyard kind of syndrome. That was about 8 or 10 years ago. But one of the hurricanes came along, I think it was Sandy. The town needed a warming facility for the Red Cross. We were that warming facility, and suddenly the town mayor and our managing director were best of friends for a while. And then that kind of goes sour once in a while, but we keep that relationship. This is a picture taken at the Rescue Mission of Trenton, also been around since the early 1900s. And I'm there with someone from Princeton University and some of my colleagues working with them also. We work with Damon House in New Brunswick and have contacts with rescue missions all over the state that we're collaborating with. So our vision, again, is to address the perfect storm in a meaningful way. Our mission is to help save, that's our vision. Our mission is to save one person, one family, one community from a life of addiction. And a friend and colleague of the Market Street Mission, who was actually a graduate of our Life Change program, he told me one day, he said, don't let your vision get in the way of your mission. And so while we're having these grandiose thoughts and plans of saving the world, we really are looking at that one individual, one family, one community, all at the same time. So, fast forward, I had the honor of attending the National Convention for the LCMS in 2019, summer of 2019. And I didn't know what to expect. I'd never been to one before. I grew up Presbyterian and Methodist. Gwen grew up a Lutheran. And so I've been the president of our congregation a couple times and was invited to attend, so I took that opportunity. And I saw that they collected these things called resolutions. And I didn't know what a resolution was, but I saw that you could type it up and hand it over to somebody, and it would be printed in this book that they put out. So I said, well, that's pretty good. And so I worked with Tony Steinbrunn, and he got me some Bible verses. I started putting this resolution together, following the format of these thousands of other resolutions that were presented to the, and some of these resolutions have been going around for 40 years. You know, they keep bringing them up, they talk about them, they change a few words, and then they go on to the next convention 3 years later. But so we got it written up, and so I emailed it back to our church, which just so happened that Redeemer Lutheran had a voters meeting the next day. They passed the resolution unanimously, and then we had it submitted into that book. And then, of course, we went home, and that's the last I heard of it. But we had this resolution to address opioid addiction on the part of the Synod. This is 2019. So, and when we started to get ready for the 2021, I believe it was, New Jersey District Convention, I was asked to rewrite that for the New Jersey District. And there's a copy of it right out there on the table of how the New Jersey District is going to get involved not only in the opioid addiction crisis, but also in this perfect storm in some meaningful way. Can we do that as a district organization? And it was Matt, I believe, that brought that to the attention of the district office. Gwen and I, we were not there. We were driving up from Atlantic City, no, we were driving up from Cape May back to Ocean Grove, and we went right through Atlantic City. And as we were coming over the horizon and looking at the death and destruction of Atlantic City, I don't know if you old timers like me will remember that gambling was going to save Atlantic City. My grandfather used to say, I'm contributing to higher education by going gambling down in Atlantic City. I read that 5 of the last 9 mayors of Atlantic City have gone to jail for corruption, for murder, for prostitution. I mean, this is all resident, and it hasn't improved at all. It's probably just gotten worse. So we're driving up there, and it's beautiful on the boardwalk, but 1 block off the boardwalk, it's just, if you've ever been there, you know what I'm talking about in Atlantic City. And so as I'm looking at the Atlantic City sideline, you're reading that resolution. It really resonated with me just to hear that at that point in time. But then we brought it back again from the New Jersey District, and we started a task force on addiction. We met for the first time February 2nd last year, a year ago. We had, and many of your members attended that via Zoom. We had that meeting back in February of 2022. And then there's the opportunity for the district convention, the national convention again coming up this summer. It was delayed a year, so it's now coming up in 2023. So we have this idea of rewriting the resolution that we put on the table in 2019, rewriting it and making it appropriate for the 2023 convention. And we have two members, one member of our congregation and a member from Oak Ridge, and they're bringing that resolution forward at the convention in July. And I'll read to you in part what that resolution will say. Well, maybe I won't. Yes, I will. Resolve that the Synod shall investigate restoring hope to addicts and their families. We have this hope as an anchor for the soul, Hebrews 6:19. Long-term treatment facilities are needed, along with assistance to find jobs, since the lack of jobs and the dignity that comes from a job leads to homelessness, broken families, poverty, crime, vacant homes, and low-performing schools. Anyone who does not provide for their relatives, and especially for their own household, has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever, which comes from 1 Timothy 5-8. And be it further resolved that the Synod explore alliances between Concordia University System, Gospel Rescue Missions, the Association of Gospel Rescue Missions, and the Gospel Rescue Mission Fellowship in the local community to address this complex and multifaceted issue. And be it further resolved, since no single organization can address all these issues effectively, the Anchor of Hope Alliance will serve as a model for collaboration. Commit to the Lord whatever you do, and he will assist and establish your plans, Proverbs 16:3. And be it further resolved that the Synod, after exploring potential alliances, shall work alongside the districts in the LCMS to establish at least one new partnership per district to be in place by the 2026 Synodical Convention, and utilize in and among the districts and support these efforts and bring hope to local communities. And be it finally resolved that the LCMS and Convention pray for those suffering from or impacted by the perfect storm of mental health, homelessness, incarceration, and addiction, and adopt this resolution as a call for action in this crisis. Now, I can't promise you that it's going to lead to this call of action, but I can tell you it's being addressed at the Synod level this summer. And not everyone has to move forward like I believe the Church of Holy Faith is interested in doing. We talked about the LWML grant, and I found out about the grant on a Friday, and the application was due on a Monday. And so my church didn't have an LWML anymore. They disbanded it maybe 10 years ago. But I knew there was an LWML active at Holy Faith in Oak Ridge, because I had been in contact with some of the people there. So I called them up and said, can your folks put together this, I'll give you the resolution, can you put it forward from the group out at Oak Ridge? And they said, well, we know the woman in Newton, we'll see if we can get a delay. And they called back and said, we can't get a delay, it's got to be in on Monday. Can you come to church tomorrow to tell us about it? So I talked to Glenn, yeah, sure, we'll go up there to church. So we went up there on Sunday. I walked in the back door as the church service was just ending, and they said, here's the guy, he's going to tell us about it. So I'm a college professor, if that's okay, I got up and told them about it. They sat down between services and wrote out the resolution, signed it, sent it in, got it in the next day, and it turns out the resolution was approved, and we were granted the grant, and right now that's the one that they're up to with their mics they're collecting for a $3,000 grant to support this initiative. That's the good news. The better news is I walked outside and they're sitting on 10 acres of property out in Oak Ridge. And that's their, they call it their, right up here, the Chapel Holy Faith. It's 10 acres of property. There's the picture. There's their church up there, 10 acres of property they're sitting on. And you know what they said? They said, can you help us build a Christian trade school on this site? So I'm in marketing. Of course we can. I don't know how we're going to do that. I don't know where we're going to get the funds to do that. I don't know where we're going to get anything to do that, but of course we can. Because it's jobs and the dignity that comes from holding a job that keeps people away from some of the damages of the whole issue of mental health, homelessness, incarceration, and addiction are often because of lack of jobs or lack of employment. And the trades, lack of doing trades. Try to find a plumber, try to find an electrician, try to find a carpenter these days. You cannot find them. people aren't going into those professions because we've told these kids they've got to go to law school, they've got to get a degree, they've got to get a college degree. Some people just aren't cut out for that, and they don't need that, and they can make a great living in the trades, but they need to be educated in doing trades. So we're talking about building a trade school on that site, and we got all kinds of elaborate things going on. We contacted some company out west that builds not only, we said, we'll not only train people in the trades, but why don't we build modular homes on that site and use them for low-income housing in the city of Patterson? It's only about 10 or 15 miles out of Patterson, and one of the guys on our committee was the head of the housing committee in the city of Patterson. So we had all these pieces in place, build modular homes, and what about building tiny homes? Have you heard about these tiny homes? They're showing up all over the country. People are building tiny homes. And not just, but the problem with home building is people are just buying homes and shoving people in them without the behavioral aspects of it, to teach people how to live in these homes, how to stay away from drugs, how to get out of addiction, the mental health issues associated with it. But nonetheless, having a home is part of it. And there's these companies out there around the world, and we have these aggressive plans and interest in doing that. And, but then at our first meeting last year, the president of Pillar College said, Jerry, why don't we start small? Why don't we start small? So we talked about renting a trailer, a construction trailer, and putting it in a parking lot on that site, and teach 12 people at a time, teach them the trades. And it'll be in God's time with His plan. Maybe that'll develop into something more than that. Maybe it won't, but maybe a model for other communities. And I've got some students at Pillar College in Newark that want to take this idea into the city of Newark. Right now, they're building low-income housing in the city of Newark for $3,600 a month. Who can afford $3,600 a month on low-income housing? And so if you go through the train station in Newark, you see where all these people end up. They're hanging out in the train station. Gwen and I saw someone apparently overdosing in the train station, being given Narcan by the police in the train station in Newark. So these are the kind of issues that we're trying to address through the Anchor of Hope. And this I go one more forward. Gwen and I were walking around our daughter's neighborhood in Arlington, Virginia, and we stumbled across this rock sitting on the ground, Be the Good. I don't know where that rock came from. I don't know who put that rock there, but it was meant for me because I just happened to be looking down that day as I was walking by it, and so I took a picture of that rock, and it says, if anyone knows the good they ought to do and does not do it, it is sin for them, which is James 4:17. So I've been at this for a long time now. This is about 20 years of research, particularly in the last 10 years, and been studying it and talking about it and preaching about it and developing awareness about it. I tend to work at a very high level, a high plane, but also there's that area of opportunity, the mission, one person, one family, one community. And I can't tell you what's right for Village Lutheran, but certainly when we gather later, we can talk about some of the things I know you're already doing as best practices. Maybe this, the kinds of things that you can do as a community, what resources you have, what skills you have, what interests you have, and there's something that you can contribute, something we all can contribute to this effort, this initiative. Thank you very much. Are there any questions here that we'd like to address in a public forum? Did
I
any
do
come
have
through?
one question.
Yep, sure.
Because you're talking about building a whole community on that piece of property with little homes.
Well, we'd build the homes there and move them someplace else. They wouldn't be on that piece of property. We would just build them there.
Why not accommodate more people and make container homes that are very easily to be able to be moved? You can use the same amount of funds and get so much more to so many more people.
That's a great idea. That's a great idea. And we need to find a piece of property to put them on. And you see them all over the
Well, that's the
country.
problem. I live in a little house.
Yeah.
I live in 580 square feet, and I raised 2 children in 580 square feet.
Yep.
And I'm nobody special, so anybody can do it. It's more the mindset that needs to be changed as a community, as most people, they want. They're
Yep.
not appreciative for the things that they have.
Yeah. But there are, if you look at what's going on in San Francisco right now, it's just not a safe environment. There's drug dealers all over the streets. There's drug use in the streets. In that mix are people that need a home. But the ones that are on the street abusing drugs, they don't need a home right now. They need mental health services first before they can be in a position to get a home. I work with a lot of guys. I'm on Governor McGreevy's reentry program now. And these guys coming out of prison, some of them have been there 10 or 15 or 20 years. They don't have much of an education to begin with. They have no home to go back to. They've got no job to go back to. They've got no information about them that's been collected. They probably have some fines that they have to pay off, and they have no health programs at all, let alone physical health, let alone mental health. They come out with nothing, absolutely nothing. I think they give them $3 and a bus ticket to go someplace. And so they now end up in their old neighborhoods. No one wants to see them. Their parents or friends or spouses are long since gone, and very quickly they end up on the streets again. So there's a whole program we've got to go through, and housing is just one aspect of it, one component of it. But there's some people that just need housing, and some people that need help with incarceration, some with mental health issues, but more often than not, it's some combination thereof. I say that no one wakes up in the morning and says, I think I'm going to shoot heroin into my veins today. It's usually a progressive set of things that have happened over time, usually starting with some kind of trauma, maybe PTSD, maybe economic conditions, maybe they're forced out of the home, maybe it's a divorce, maybe it's a death in the family, but it leads them down that path. But you're right, there are other alternatives which can be explored.
My other church, I was just there today, we started housing veterans.
Perfect.
They paired with VetWorks, and two of the 3 rooms so far are housing veterans.
And you have AA and NA programs here already, right?
Mhm.
So our church has that too. This is another story. We have AA and NA programs meeting in our church, downstairs in the basement. We have the congregation that comes to church every Sunday upstairs. And we had someone announce at our last voters meeting, said, why don't you all come down to one of our AA meetings and see what's going on down there? And everyone said, well, I don't need to go down there. I know what's going on down there. So I took them up on that, and I went down at 3 o'clock to that AA meeting. Both of those meetings opened in prayer. Both of those meetings ended in prayer. But God was present more so during that AA meeting than he was in that church voters meeting. The whole thing, he was there. And you can see it. Yep.
What exactly will the program at Keswick make, or will it entail?
Well, we're at the early stages. We're going to set up essentially a campus at Keswick. And we're going to offer psychology and counseling there. We're going to offer some other majors there. We're going to try to attract students. And eventually we'll offer CADC, Certification in Drug and Alcohol Counseling. And we had in mind bringing men from the Jersey Shore Rescue Mission. Right now they're getting it at Brookdale College. But we had one of our key leaders who had taught it in the LEAD program at Pillar was going to lead that program down at Keswick. Unfortunately, he died in December. But we had those plans. We're still moving forward with those plans. But we'll still open up a campus there. We'll have programs there. Our problem right now is we have an interest in the community. The churches in the community are posting it and talking about it, but we don't have the students. So any word you can get out that we have this program set up at Keswick for people with drug and alcohol addiction issues. They already have a program at Keswick. And this would just be a campus for them to get whatever degrees that they're interested in getting, whether it's a college degree or we have also now online programs where they get certification in other majors. So it's just a way to get them that next step. And that's all we're recruiting for students there now. And on March 31st, again, we'll be there. Did any questions come in from?
Yeah, at this time, we do have our 7 o'clock service about to start.
Oh, okay.
So what I invite you all to do is, we have some light refreshments in the fellowship hall. If you could just move in there with Jerry, and he'll be glad to answer maybe more specific questions as to what you might have as to programs that you may be interested in volunteering in. I know Bill is here and Michelle, they do the parent outreach, which is really important, and support for the parents that there is hope, and just maybe different opportunities, something that just weighs in on your heart. Like Jerry said, we don't have to do everything here, but we can contribute to something that's already going on in our community. And Keswick is right around the corner, would be a great opportunity for us to be a part of, for anybody to join. But he's a wealth of knowledge to know what is going on in the state. If you're dealing with a problem, or you know somebody close to you dealing with a problem, maybe he could tell you what's available in your area, in that area the person is an issue with. but we're really glad to have you here today.
I appreciate it.
And thank you from the ladies
Oh.
for coming.
Thank you so much.
And just a plug-in, if you are part of any LWML society, we are, in our mites, we are supporting the Anchor of Hope Alliance too. And we hope to work together in mission. And you're so correct, we can only do one person at a time. That's all we're called to do. But the Lord does call us to act, and we are the anchor of hope in our neighborhood. He's the one. It's all through Jesus. It's not, we're just his hands, his mouth, and his feet to bring him to the hurting people and do what we can to pick up the pieces of this. And I always believe in prayer, so let's work with that together. So thank you, Jerry.
Thank you very much.
This concludes its part, so thank you.
Thank you.